guide tonight and bless, I pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Peterson, first item.
Bit of housekeeping to start the meeting. We have several items that have come in yesterday, today we'd like to add to this agenda. And I think we can add these collectively. If you'd like to do this all with one motion, if there's something you'd like to pull off, please let me know.
That's good.
Item number one would be a proclamation recognizing the Bank of Tennessee Intercollegiate Golf Tournament. Item number two would be a temporary occasion license for the Humane Society of Washington County. Item three is a beer license for Adam Gratz Barley Waters LLC. Item four is a beer license for Sabori's LLC. And item five would be a beer license for Cheddar's Franchise Acquisition LLC.
Very good.
These items are ready for your consideration this evening, and our recommendation would be for you to add them to the agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to add one other item. I'd like for us to consider naming a firm for branding and local development for the city of Johnson City this evening as well, please.
Everybody good with that?
I'd make a motion to do that.
Okay.
Second.
Commissioner, sorry.
And just to comment, I don't want to make it look like we're in the habit of adding this many items, but we are only having one meeting in October because of fall break and the way the month fell. So we want to make sure we get everything that we possibly can dealt with today. So if you'd call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin.
Yes.
Commissioner Wise.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock. Yes. Mayor Tamita.
Yes.
Would you like to go ahead and deal with the items we added, or do you want me to work them into their customary place on the agenda?
Why don't we work them into their customary places?
Yes, sir. Your first order of business is consideration of the minutes from your regularly scheduled meeting that was held on Thursday, September the 21st.
Very good.
Move approval.
I do have one addition that I'd like to make to the minutes, please.
Okay.
And that relates to the final item in the minutes, which is be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Johnson City that the increased fair market values on the Knob Creek Road, CSX Railroad Overpass project for tracks 23, 24, 25, 26, and 31B, and the same are hereby approved. The commission had a lot of conversations surrounding this at the last meeting, and the only reason that it was approved was because the representative from the firm, who had not done things in a timely fashion, indicated that the firm would take care of the cost overrun. So I think we need to have some sort of a proviso in there that this was contingent upon that occurring.
I would modify my motion to reflect that change.
I will second that.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as amended. Any more discussion? Very good. Call a roll,
You have a
please.
clear sense of how you're amending it? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin.
Janet also has a copy of an email that indicated the same, so yes.
Commissioner Wise.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock. Yes. Mayor Tamita.
Yes.
Not to second guess that you were on top of it. There
At
was a
this
lot being
time, we
said.
will move into proclamations. The first being a proclamation recognizing the 20th anniversary of the Bank of Tennessee Intercollegiate Golf Tournament.
We're going to get him out first.
Yes. We're going to take care of Scott so he can get on to business here.
Thanks for being here. The copy's there. We're very happy to have the new athletic director, Scott Carter from ETSU, with us tonight. And this proclamation is whereas ETSU men's golf head coach Fred Warren and longtime supporter William B. Green, Jr. had a vision to create one of the country's premier college tournaments and the inaugural Bank of Tennessee Intercollegiate was held September 12th and 13th, 1998, 20 years ago. Whereas the list of Bank of Tennessee Intercollegiate team winners includes traditional NCAA Division I golf powerhouses such as Wake Forest, Clemson, Oklahoma, TCU, Florida, and Virginia. And whereas future PGA professionals such as Matt Kuchar, Lucas Glover, Luke Donald, Jonathan Bird, Bill Haas, Graham McDowell, Jason Duffner, Camilo Villegas, Webb Simpson, and ETSU owns Seamus Power, and all of them developed their skills by playing in this Bank of Tennessee Intercollegiate. And whereas the list of Bank of Tennessee Intercollegiate winners include such greats as Wake Forest Bill Haas, Clemson's Jonathan Bird, Tennessee's Chris Paisley, as well as ETSU's Adrian Merrick and Reese Davies, who won back-to-back titles in both 2005 and 2006 tournament, and was once the nation's #1 ranked collegiate golf player. Now, therefore, I, Todd Fowler, for David Tomita, Mayor of Johnson City, on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, we say thank you to Fred Warren and Bill Green for their efforts in creating and fostering this unique collegiate golf tournament, and extend well wishes to organizers and participants as they celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Bank of Tennessee Intercollegiate, October 13th and 14th, 2017, at the Blackthorn Club at the Ridges. Thank you very much. And I'm going to actually venture to give you this microphone to talk, but we don't have that much time, Scott. So
Thank you all. This is very, very special because I am trying to do, as they say, the flight of the bumblebee, to go out to the Blackthorn, where we actually have 15 intercollegiate golf teams playing, men's golf teams, starting tomorrow. If you enjoy golf, I encourage you to come out to the Blackthorn. The first pairing tees off at 8:30 a.m. I can't say anything more eloquent than what you just said. The Bucks, we're all very, very proud of, tee off at 10:10 tomorrow. They are paired with Kent State and the University of Tennessee. So, again, 15 great teams, wonderful programs that are going to be out there competing through Sunday. I think we're going to have absolutely gorgeous weather. The course is in incredible shape. It's probably going to foster some pretty low scores. I think it's playing pretty fast. But this is an incredibly special tournament. Again, 20 years in the making, and I can't say it any better than you did, but we have an incredibly proud golf program. If you've never seen them play, I encourage you to come out and watch us, just like you do for basketball, baseball, football. But it's a pleasure to be here before all of you. Thank you, my friends that are with us. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Well, and I always get really nervous when I see a bunch of people in white coats, because I think they're going to take me away. But I believe our next one is our Pharmacist Month.
They won't take you away, they'll just give you something.
Medicate me, yeah. They always bring good stuff.
Where's Miss?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. And they're not carrying a white jacket for me, so I guess we're in good shape. So, whereas pharmacy is one of the world's oldest health professions and is dedicated to the health and well-being of all people, and whereas America's more than 300,000 licensed pharmacists are specifically educated on medication therapy and trained as members of the healthcare team that liaison between other healthcare providers and patients to improve medication use and outcomes. And whereas, in addition to their expertise, pharmacists provide a high level of accessibility, particularly in the southern Appalachian region, which has been served by the ETSU Bill Gatton College of Pharmacy since its establishment in 2005. And whereas the American Pharmacists Association has declared October American Pharmacist Month with the theme, Know Your Pharmacist, Know Your Medicine. Now, therefore, I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, in conjunction with the nationwide observance, do hereby proclaim October Pharmacist Month in Johnson City and urge all citizens to acknowledge pharmacists for the safe and affordable pharmaceutical care, services, and products they provide. Thank you very much. Now, you don't get out of here without having to, first, you just introduce yourself, and then I'd like one of you to sing the College of Pharmacy song for us.
I don't know if we can do that, but I'm Chelsea Beavers. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm the current president of the American Pharmacy Association at Bill Guyton College of Pharmacy. We do a lot of stuff during the month of October to raise awareness for pharmacy, and we're really excited that they always do this every year for us.
Hi, my name is Lily Tran. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I'm the president-elect of our chapter.
Hi, I'm Anna Lee. I'm from Sweetwater, Tennessee, and I'm the membership vice president of our chapter.
Well, hello, I'm Andrew Teresides. I'm from Blacksburg, Virginia, and I am finance vice president.
Hi, I'm Augie Bowie. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm the communications vice president.
Hey, I'm Austin Roberts. I'm from Bluff City, Tennessee, and I'm the patient care vice president.
And I am Lauren Dickerson. I'm from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I am the policy vice president.
Oh, sure.
Now I can't see anything.
Can we photobomb you?
Thank you.
Thank
You're welcome. Thank you all for coming.
Appreciate you.
Tell Miss Calhoun that we missed her tonight.
And you are going to stay for the rest of the meeting, right? You guys aren't leaving, are you? No, okay, we'll go back and study.
Your next order of business is a proclamation recognizing Manufacturing Awareness and Appreciation Month. Mr. Scott, Mitch, if you guys come up.
All right. I think we're the last addition to the list of folks providing you with this proclamation. So we're pleased to be your final time you have to hear something like this. Whereas the city of Johnson City, the city of Elizabethton, the town of Irwin, the town of Jonesboro, the town of Unicoi, the city of Watauga, the county of Washington, the county of Carter, the county of Unicoi, Tennessee, are located in northeast Tennessee. Wow, that's eye-opening, isn't it? And whereas Northeast Tennessee is a leading manufacturing center with billions of dollars in annual revenues and whose industries are a primary driver of regional economic development, and whereas these manufacturing firms located in Northeast Tennessee provide well-paying jobs for employees and contribute to the prosperity of the entire community, and whereas the several municipalities and counties in partnership with the Northeast Tennessee Regional Economic Partnership are collaborating with manufacturers, educational institutions, workforce providers, nonprofit organizations, trade associations, and other economic development organizations to support and strengthen the region's manufacturing sector. Goodness. And whereas manufacturers, educational institutions, and other organizations in the region will host events throughout the month of October to showcase the skilled and well-paying jobs afforded by a career in manufacturing, to support and promote a positive public image for manufacturing, and to ensure the continued sustainable growth of the manufacturing industry. Now, therefore, I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, in conjunction with the National Association of Manufacturers, do hereby designate October 2017 Manufacturing Awareness and Appreciation Month in Johnson City, and urge all residents to recognize the important role that manufacturing business plays in our community. That is all. Senator down the line, tell us who you are.
Ron Scott, Chair of NetRep. Want to thank you for the resolution and also state that the entire community is appreciative of this commission's support for economic development and the city management that has been instrumental in carrying a lot of this stuff out with us. So thank you very much for the awesome teamwork and all the great help.
Mitch Miller, I'm CEO of NetRep. Certainly want to extend gratitude and thanks to this entire commission for your support and all that you've done, from things like the capital investment program, all the way to some of the things you do that really help make it easier for us to attract industry with investments in things like the Tweetsie Trail, Founders Park, and beyond. So without your support and help, I don't think our jobs would be nearly as easy as it is at times. So thank you all.
Thank you.
So Mitch, just to review, it's an easy job. Oh, okay. I just wanted to be sure I heard that correctly.
There are parts that are easy. Not reading a proclamation, though.
That was tricky.
We'll have to run that tape back.
Exactly.
Your next order of business is a proclamation recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. General?
Well, Mr. Clark, I'm glad to figure out why you're here and not to deliver that warrant. I've been avoiding for the last 50 years. But I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry you have to be here. And we'll read the proclamation we prepared for you. As the father of three girls, I read this with great interest. Whereas domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity through systematic physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and/or economic control and abuse, and whereas the problems of domestic violence are not confined to any group of people but cross all economic, racial, gender, educational, religion, and societal barriers, and the City of Johnson City is committed to help prevent domestic violence and address its brutal and destructive efforts. And whereas victims of violence should have access to medical and legal services, counseling, emergency and transitional housing, and other supportive services so that they can escape the cycle of abuse. And whereas important partnerships like the Johnson City, Washington County Family Justice Center, which we're all very proud of, have been formed along criminal justice agencies, healthcare providers, allied professionals, and victim services to assist victims of domestic violence and their families. And whereas it is important to recognize the compassion and dedication of the individuals who provide services to victims of domestic violence and work to increase public understanding of this significant problem. Now, therefore, I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, in conjunction with the National Network to End Domestic Violence in the Johnson City, Washington County Family Justice Center, do hereby designate October 2017 Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Johnson City and urge all citizens to make a personal commitment to create domestic violence-free community. And there you are.
I'll be very brief. My name is Tony Clark. I'm District Attorney General for the 1st Judicial District. I want to thank Commissioner Tomita and all the commissioners, especially Vice Mayor Brock, has been heavily involved with us supporting our trying to stop domestic violence. I can't ask for better than standing up here with Heather Brack with the Family Justice Center. I'll say this very briefly as to just give you an example. If you read the news, we had 2 young ladies killed yesterday in Irwin, domestic violence related. One of them had 5 children. So this affects everyone, and I appreciate the support of the City Commission. We've prosecuted over 1,300 domestic violence cases in the last year and a half. That's just in Washington County. So I really do appreciate the support that we have. Without the commissioners and Johnson City's support, we would not have a Family Justice Center, police department. Everyone's been heavily involved, so I appreciate that very much, sincerely.
My name is Pat Griggs. I'm the director of our local family violence and sexual assault programs and shelter. We shelter men and women who are victims of domestic violence. And I want to echo what you said about our gratitude to the commission and to the community for our support, for your support for the hard work that we do. We are currently, as I stand here, admitting one to our shelter. It is ongoing. This woman is alive, and not like in Unicoi County yesterday, but that's all too sad. The trauma is lifelong.
My name is Elizabeth McClellan. I'm the on-site partner for Legal Aid of East Tennessee with the Family Justice Center. I provide domestic violence and order of protection services in 12 of our rural counties, including Johnson City. I want to echo what everybody else has said. Everyone's sort of sharing kind of how this affects us. I've been in court every day this week, and tomorrow morning I have 500 counts of contempt for 500 violations of an order of protection over the period of 9 days. General Clerk's office does a lot to help us out with covering those, but there are some civil things that legal aid handles. We're so glad to be partnered with the FJC. We're so glad to be able to do the work that we do.
My name is Heather Brack. I am with the Family Justice Center, and I am here tonight to honor the commitment that the city and the commission behind us has shown in the creation of the Family Justice Center, and to recognize the need for domestic violence services and prevention, not just in the month of October, but in our community year-round, and really here to highlight the wonderful work of our community partners that are standing up here with us tonight to really recognize the services that they do every single day to help support our community.
Boy, it's dangerous to hand the minister's kid a microphone. My name is Tim Horn. I'm an assistant district attorney under the direction of my boss down here, General Tony Clark, and I'm the domestic violence prosecutor for the 1st Judicial District. And I'll be brief, and I'll just say this. It's an honor to represent the victims of domestic abuse and to be their advocate for them in the courtroom. And as thankful as I am that this commission recognizes Domestic Violence as Awareness Month, I think standing up here without saying that the real heroes are the victims of domestic abuse who have the courage to face those domestic abusers. And so I think it would be remiss for me not to mention that they're the real heroes of this. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and face those who put you under all kinds of abuse. And so I'd just like to acknowledge them. They are the true heroes, and they need acknowledgement as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
It's all right. We're good.
We didn't know that after this.
Steve Forbes knocked it over.
Thank you. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you. Appreciate what you do. Heather, good to see you. Thanks. You got, we may have a couple more.
Have we got anybody here?
Is there somebody here on these national parks?
I don't know.
If there's not, I'll just stand up here and I'll sit up here.
The next order of business is a resolution in support of the National Park System.
Is there?
No.
Nope.
I don't know that we have anyone present to.
I'll just do it from up here.
Okay.
Okay. Mayor, thank you so much for letting me read this resolution. It's a real privilege. As one of my responsibilities being on the commission, I serve on an outdoor task force for net reps for the whole region. And we're looking at our great outdoors here, which are a prize to all of us. This resolution is really a resolution of support for our national park system. And as I get it through the resolution, it has a great deal of meaning. At the same time, I want you to think about everything that I'm going to read on the national level applies to our own state. And we have some of the greatest state parks of any state around, but they're in the same condition as what you're going to hear from this resolution. So whereas the American National Park System is a living testament to our citizens' valor, our nation's hardships, our victories, our traditions as Americans, and has been called America's best idea. And whereas the National Park System preserves the diversity, culture, and heritage of all Americans and serves as a living classroom for future generations. And whereas in 2016, the National Park Service is celebrating its centennial and currently manages more than 400 nationally significant sites and an invaluable collection of more than 75,000 natural and cultural assets, and spans 84 million acres across all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and several U.S. territories and insular areas. And whereas the National Park Service mission is to conserve the scenery and the natural and historic objects and the wildlife therein, and to provide for the enjoyment of the same in such a manner and by such means as will leave them unimpaired for the enjoyment for future generation. And whereas in 2015, the National Park System had more than 307 million visitors. And whereas in 2015, the National Park Service estimates indicate that park visitors spent more than $16.9 billion at the sites and in the states and local communities adjacent to the national parks. And whereas the National Park Service has the obligation to preserve our nation's history, promote access to national parks for all citizens, stimulate revenue to sustain itself and nearby communities, educate the public about America's natural, cultural, and historical resources, and provide safe facilities and environs to enjoy these resources. And whereas in 2016, the National Park Service estimated a deferred maintenance backlog of nearly $12 billion, which includes repairs to aging historical structures, trails, sewers, drainage, thousands of miles of roads, bridges, tunnels, and other vital infrastructure. And whereas it is the responsibility of Congress to maintain America's national parks, to ensure our natural places and our history is preserved and documented for future generations, and for the adjacent communities that rely on the direct and indirect economic benefits generated by visits to the national parks. Now therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee strongly encourages Congress to create a reliable, predictable stream of resources to address deferred maintenance and the needs of America's national park system. And be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the official minutes of this meeting, approved and signed in open meeting on the 12th day of October 2017. Let me encourage all of our citizens to think about one thing, that our national parks and our state parks are our lands. They belong to us. And so I encourage you to call your congressmen and your senators or write letters to them and request that they begin to fund at a more appropriate level the maintenance of our park system. Because once they're lost, they're lost. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd move approval of this resolution.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? That $12 billion is a scary figure, but is what it is. All right, so call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tumita?
Yes.
This takes us to license. Your first being consideration of a temporary occasion license for the Appalachian RC&D Council to sell beer on November the 3rd at the Appalachian Fusion event. This is to take place at the Founders Pavilion. There are no disqualifying factors found, and the recommendation is for approval.
Very good. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
I'm Emily Bidgood, B-I-D good. And I'm the executive director of the Appalachian RC&D Council.
Very good.
Do you all want a flyer for this event that you're
Well, let's dispense
approving?
of the formalities first,
Okay.
and then you can give us a copy. We can plug your event and then give us a copy of the
Okay.
flyer. And anybody else you'd like to hand out to here, that'd be great. Have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson
Yes,
City?
we have them.
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes.
Do you have any questions for us?
No.
Very good. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Just call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tumita?
Yes. Okay, now if you'd like to give us a copy.
We think there are 6 or 7 people watching it on TV, so you can,
Yeah, you can
tell them all about
Tell
your
us about
event.
it here on TV.
You guys underestimate.
You all have just
I'm sorry,
approved.
I refer to it as tens of people watching.
You all have just approved for Yeehaw Brewing to donate a pint of brew to those over 21 to our annual fundraiser for the Appalachian RC&D Council. It's a shared fundraiser also for all programs that promote youth education and adult education around agriculture. Everything we do for our organization promotes local food economy and agricultural economy, driving sales to farmers markets. We run a beginning farmer training program. And in the city, we run the Food Forest education programs that happen weekly at the Food Forest on Wilson Avenue. And this year, we ran the Appalachian Pharmacy program with an F that gave vouchers for weekly purchases for fruits and vegetables at the farmers market. So that program and coalition was responsible for, we were tallying today, about $17,000 increase in sales at Washington County farmers markets this year. That's all purchases made by folks on SNAP. So we're really pleased with that program, and we hope to continue it. So this is our annual fundraiser on Friday, November 3rd at the Founders Pavilion. And it's, we didn't make this term up, but it's Mexalachin. That's Mexican Appalachian cuisine and menu. And we're really excited about it. So it's only $25 because the people that we serve, that means we can invite the people we serve, and sponsors keep it affordable. So.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Thanks.
The next order of business is consideration of a beer license application for Bolton Ventures LLC, doing business as Quantum Leap Trampoline Sports Arena. This is is sent to you for consideration of a Class 1 beer license. In our discussions on Monday evening in the agenda review, I think we discussed that perhaps the more fitting designation would be a Class 3 license. That doesn't impact you all at all. It just means
I hope there's not a quiz.
that just means you're not getting a license under the restaurant classification, but under a different classification under the beer license. The recommendation would be for approval.
Very good. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Dan and Leah Bolton, 5426 Canova Court, Kingsport, Tennessee.
And have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City?
Sir.
Okay. Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes, sir.
And do you have any questions for us?
Sir.
Okay. Do I have a motion? I think we need to amend the request, or has it already been amended to a Class 3?
I think if someone would make the motion to approve it as a Class 3, we'll be where we need to be.
Very good. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor. While I certainly appreciate the desire to diversify your business, I'm not supportive of us being quite as permissive with our beer permits as we seem to be becoming in this city. I think that if it's associated with a business that's primarily a restaurant or a business whose primary venture is to sell alcoholic beverages, I certainly don't have any problem with beer permits or the serving of beer, but little skeptical about continuing to allow businesses where it's a different venture, and I kind of wonder how well beer and trampolines mix. I'm not really very supportive of continuing to branch out and make our beer permits more permissive. So I'm going to vote against you. I certainly appreciate you being a business in town, and we wish you the best of luck, but I can't support this.
Very good. Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. And again, for the 7 or 8 people now, maybe somebody else has dialed in, feel free to plug your business.
We're the largest trampoline arena in Tennessee. We have more to offer than anyone else, lower injury incident rates than most of the trampoline parks across the entire United States. And we do have measures set in place to make sure that nobody is going to be jumping on the trampolines if they partake of any beer.
Good deal.
I promise. So thank you for approving it.
Hey, Dr. Fowler's very disappointed that your injury rate is low.
Business.
Sorry. We can still keep you a little bit busy.
Yeah, we do okay. We're all right.
Okay.
How's your business been so far since you've opened?
It's been very good. It's tremendous, actually. We've had a great following, and we've finished our obstacle course now with a warp wall, so it's been a lot of fun to see the kids challenging themselves on the warp wall, getting lots of exercise in there.
What kind of wall?
It's a warp wall. It's like a ninja course, but they have to run up a wall, climb up on top of it, and then they can jump into a foam pit afterwards. But you'll have to come see it. It's
And this
pretty
was
cool.
we just finished
we
our
can do some
1-year
team building
anniversary.
over there.
Yeah.
Congratulations, too. That's great.
Yeah, congratulations. Good luck. Best
Thank
of
you
luck
very
to
much.
Thank you.
We'd skew their injury rate. Yeah. They've got those good stats. Then we get
Feel free to just watch and have a beer.
somebody get hurt.
Yeah, it'll be me.
I'll watch.
Okay, your next item for consideration is a temporary occasion license for the Humane Society of Washington County to sell beer on October the 27th. at Barktoberfest. This is to be held at Founders Park. We've reviewed it, finding no disqualifying factors, and the recommendation is for approval.
Good evening.
I am Jamie Howard, and alongside me is Dr. Turney Williams, and we are volunteers with the Humane Society of Washington County. And we are having our first annual Barktoberfest event, and it'll be October 27th at Founders Park. It is a fundraiser to help with our spay and neuter initiatives within Washington County, but also surrounding communities as well.
Very good. Well, we'll work this in reverse now. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please.
Jamie Howard.
Okay, and have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City?
Yes.
Do you agree to abide by those rules? Do you have any questions for us? Do you have any questions for the applicant?
Move approval.
Have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Let's call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
So is this dog-friendly event?
Yes. Very much so.
Now, for Commissioner Van Brock, it has to be cat-friendly event, so.
You can bring your cat as
Be
well.
the Meow
Yes.
Fest as well?
Yes, we are welcoming our feline friends as well. So we have a lot of activities going on. We'll have a live band there as well as vendors. And we're also having a puppy bowl. And different activities, even for people who may not have animals, they can still come and have a good time. We'll have cornhole and activities like that as well. And we are having a monster dash walk around the perimeter of Founders Park. So, people are very excited. We're very excited as well. So we think it'll draw a good crowd.
Good. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all should
Thank
come.
you.
We
And
have
Dr. Williams,
flyers.
can I just say a word to Dr. Williams there? Thank you for all the work that you do, the volunteer work that you do for the care of animals in our community. So
Thank you very much, and we certainly appreciate the support of the commission, because without the commission, we would not be where we are. And things are going great. Might I approach the bench and let you?
Absolutely.
Come on up.
And I might add, he takes pretty fine care of people, too. So, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
it's the color of my golden retriever. So.
We anticipate our injury rate being extremely low.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Peterson?
Your next order of business is a request for a beer license for Adam Gratz Barley Waters LLC. This is a Class 3 off-premise and a Class 3 on-premise and a Class 4 off-premise license. We have made the appropriate reviews, and we're recommending approval with the condition that the furniture and seating be in place before the official opening. Evidently, the furniture was lost in shipment in the hurricane, and they're expecting it sometime soon.
I don't want to
See that
ask, but
coming.
we
Which
lost
hurricane?
it, sorry.
The one that hit Houston, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, very good. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Adam Gratz, 100 Spring Street.
Very good. And have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City? And do you agree to abide by those rules? Do you have any questions for us?
None at all.
Do you understand that it is contingent on the furniture being placed?
I do.
Okay, very good. Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, let me ask you a real quick question.
Sure.
Are you able to open without the furniture being in place?
I am.
And if so, the impact of it being delayed, does that cause you problems?
It is actually being shipped on the 13th, which is tomorrow. So
Okay. Could be moved.
I should be able to open next week.
Okay, very good.
100 Spring Street, which is on the corner of Spring and Main in the old Tennessee National Bank building.
Vance, for those of us that go back a few
Jones Vance
years.
Pharmacy, right?
Okay.
Very
Yeah,
good.
it was an old pharmacy at one time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Our pharmacy students have left, so they
Sorry.
didn't.
They wouldn't remember it
They
either.
wouldn't remember it. Very good.
Move approval.
We have a motion, do we have a
Second.
second? We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. And if you'd like to take a second and plug your business.
Yes, we are a craft beer market that will have over 200 beers to choose from when open and have furniture. We will have on-premise, off-premise, where people can come and enjoy at the bar, and then as well for the residents that live close to downtown, take with them as well in a packaged or in a growler as well. So that's about it.
Very good. Very simple. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Next item for consideration is a beer license for Sabori's LLC located at 202 East Main. This is for consideration of a Class 1 on-premise license. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors. The recommendation is for approval.
Very good. Good evening.
Hello.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Cole Kessinger, and the address at the restaurant is 202 East Main Street in Johnson City.
Very good. And have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you agree to abide by those rules? Yes. Do you have any questions for us? Do we have any questions for the applicant? If not, do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Let's call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. We are very pleased that you've chosen our city. Sorry, Kelly.
We're not sorry.
I'm
not sorry.
Thank you,
Not for Kelly.
That's right, that's right. Would you like to tell us a little bit about who you were, for some people that might not recognize the new name, who you were, who you are now, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
The owners, Christine and Hugo, were in Jonesboro, Tennessee for 9 years under the dining room, downtown Jonesboro, right across from the courthouse. We are a Cuban-inspired restaurant. And then they've recently moved to Johnson City downtown, and we just opened up August 11th.
Very good.
And your patio looks great.
Yeah.
I've not
And
been yet, but it
very
looks
much.
great.
And your food is outstanding.
Awesome.
I was
Thank
by
you.
there today, and your patio was full at lunchtime.
Yes,
so was
it
really nice.
stays full, actually,
Excellent.
for lunch and dinner.
I've not had the opportunity to eat in your new location, but I was a pretty regular customer in Jonesboro, and I can
I think
attest
you
to the
probably have the
food
best
being.
patio in Johnson City.
Oh, yeah, easily.
We look forward to serving
Well,
all of you
amongst
all.
the best patios.
Amongst.
the best patios.
Best of luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business is consideration of a beer license for Cheddar's Franchise Acquisition LLC, doing business as Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen at 3000 Franklin Terrace Drive. This is for an on-premise Class 1 license. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors. We would recommend approval.
Good evening.
Good
Would
evening.
you state your name and address for the record, please?
Tamara Durbin. It's 3000 Franklin Terrace Drive, Johnson City.
Very good. And have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City?
Yes, sir.
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions for us?
No.
Do we have any questions for the applicant? This is a change of management
Change of
or
management. is that
ownership?
right?
Ownership, yes.
Okay, all right.
This is Cheddar's.
Cheddar.
Cheddar Scratch Kitchen, yes. They just changed the name. It's always been a Scratch Kitchen, but they changed the
okay.
name to let people know.
But we just know it is Cheddar's.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same.
One and the same.
Same restaurant, same operations, different owners.
Different owner, we have to give him a new beer license.
Right.
Move approval.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your business?
We've only been in business for about 14 and a half years. This location, Cheddar's itself, has been in business a lot longer. We have scratch-made food. We have cooks that come in. A lot of people don't know. They come in at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and start prepping food. Everything is made from scratch. We get fresh produce in. It's a lot more labor than your average restaurant that just serves pre-made food. But it's worth it. It's good food. We're real strict on servers IDing. They are required to ask as soon as someone orders an alcoholic beverage, are you at least 21? And then they proceed with checking the ID. And when they ring the order in, if it's an alcoholic beverage, they also have to memo in the date of birth. So that way the bartender can also verify that the person is 21 or older.
Very good. Well, good luck. Wish you another prosperous 14 years plus.
I hope so. Thank you. Y'all have a good weekend.
You too.
Next order of business is consideration of a street closure request from Jenny Lockmiller to accommodate a residential block party to be held on October the 14th. Holston Avenue, a portion of West Holston will be closed between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m. And we would recommend your approval. Beer is not to be allowed within the area of the block party.
Very good. Good evening.
Hello. I'm Jenny Lockmiller from 301 West Holston, not within the closed-off area,
Very good. That's good.
but they
And
let me visit.
Are your neighbors from across the way on East Holston invited to this
You know
block
what?
party?
It's really open. We're having a chili cook-off. We've got about 8 or 10 families. We're bringing grills and Fire Marshal's not here. Heat sources out into the street, and we're going to cook chili.
Don't have tents.
No tents. No tents at all. Not as far as you know. So no
That's really
tents,
bad.
especially not around the heat sources.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're going to have chili, we'll have a contest for best side dish and best chili.
Very good. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. Thank you.
Your next item is consider a street closure request from Ani Boyd to accommodate the Forest Avenue block party to be held on October the 28th. A portion of Forest Avenue will be closed at 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. for the purpose of the block party. There are to be no tents or temporary structures, and beer will not be allowed within the area. We would recommend your approval.
Very good.
I'm Blair Eldred, 802 Woodland Avenue, JC, and I'm here to represent Ani this evening.
Do I have any questions?
No.
This is not the first time this has occurred, correct?
No, so this is
Fourth
multiple years.
year, I believe.
Okay. Very good. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock? Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
I just think it's great to see neighborhoods getting out and, gathering together and neighbors knowing neighbors again.
Yes.
We kind of got out of that for a while, so it's good to see.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
And we're sort of,
Yeah, we-
Commissioner Fowler and I are
can
sort
we
of
come up your
right
way?
in the
Oh,
middle of all
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
I know where that is.
Down at the other end
I've
of
driven
Holston,
across
we
that.
can make your way that way.
Absolutely.
All right, very good.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Now, they're serving chili. What?
What do they have?
Yeah.
Your next request is a street closure request from First Free Will Baptist Church to accommodate their fall festival on Tuesday, October the 31st. A portion of Mary Key Street will be closed from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. This is an annual event that we have approved for many years. There will not be any tents or structures nor beer allowed within the area. We would recommend your approval.
Very good. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
Next order of business is a street closure request from First United Methodist Church for a reindeer run 5K on Saturday, December the 9th. They will be closing various portions of streets in the tree streets from 2:30 p.m. until 6 p.m. There are no tents, temporary structures, or beer allowed in association with the event. And again, this is an annual event that we accommodate and would recommend your approval.
Very good. Do we have any questions for the applicant? We were supposed to think up some really hard, tough questions.
Give us a
I was
minute.
afraid of that.
Yeah, give us a minute. If not, do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. Would you like to tell us
you.
about your event?
Yes, it's the Reindeer Run and Santa Stroll. It is a family-friendly event on December 9th at First United Methodist Church to benefit the Early Learning Center for the future of Johnson City. It's our annual fundraiser, and we are accepting sponsorships. You are welcome to send us money. We're trying to raise money for a playground and kitchen equipment. They get excellent food every day, so
Very good.
thank you very
How
much.
many do you usually have in the event?
It is it's one of the timed runs, so, runners, we usually have 200 runners, but they can use it for points and qualifications, so.
Well, if your assistant would like to approach the front here.
You sat so patiently through
You
this
did.
meeting.
We ought to give you some money.
But she's a kid, she doesn't even know what to
That's
do with
right.
money.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you.
See you, Charlie.
Bye.
Bye.
Move for approval.
We have a motion, have a second.
Didn't we already vote on that?
Do we already do that?
Yeah.
Do we already
We
vote?
did that. We get flyers then.
All right. No, we're done. Never mind.
We were talking
Just
about
try to
little
pass
kids
it.
and stuff.
I'm always up for a vote. So.
Your next order of business is consideration of the consent agenda.
Very good. Starting right to left tonight. Commissioner Wise, anything you'd like to pull for
No, sir.
discussion? Commissioner Brockman?
Yes, I'd like to pull A4 and E1, please.
Okay. Vice Mayor Brock.
No, sir, not tonight.
And Commissioner Fowler.
No.
All right, Mr. Peterson, A4.
Mr. Witherspoon, A4 is the Water Master Services Agreement dealing with Unicoi Springs.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Witherspoon, I appreciate you coming forward to answer a couple of questions regarding this. This is a master services agreement with Wiedemann and Singleton Engineers for Task Order 13 Unicoi Springs Source Rehabilitation Phase 1 project. I understand from the documents that you've given us that we're looking at some decrease in supply of water from these springs, and that there is the intent for part of the services to try to identify why that's occurring and maybe put in place.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
There's a second portion of that, which is the portion that I really have the questions regarding. And that is that part of what they'll look at is some of the adjacent springs to that watershed and what impact they might have in bringing in increased amounts of water to the facility and for availability for drinking water for municipal residents here and in portions of Unicoi County as well. My concern is, and I wonder how essential this is, first question is what percentage of our waters for Johnson City come out of those springs? And the second question is, do we really need to do this? Because I believe that we're going to have some impact on the amount of water that's coming into North Creek. And one of the things that we're looking at as a commission and as a region is branding with recreation in mind, and as you decrease the amount of water in your streams, certainly you have the potential to impact the fisheries as well.
Okay, based on, let me see if I can go down through those questions. Based on your current capacity that you're pumping right now, that supply reflects about 20%. We're pumping about 12 at the Watauga plant and about 3 out of that particular supply. Ultimate capacity of both the Unicoi supply and that supply up there, it would represent about 15%. The water, as I put in the email or in the memo with the packet, the water is one of the city's original supplies since close to 1910, 1912. Very high quality supply, requires very little treatment, very minimal pumping to get the water to town and to the storage. So and it also provides somewhat of a backup supply, especially for the southern part of our system, which includes ETSU, VA, and Johnson City Med System. So there are a number of factors that we would want to continue to retain that supply up there. As far as the development of additional volumes up there, what we believe's happened is the original system was laid out with a number of clay tiles into 2 or 3 different branches, not branches as you would think about a stream, but they're buried into a sand seam that's in that area up through there. We believe, and again, those went in about 1910. Been very little work done on those since that period of time. We think, especially on the Davis Springs side, there have been some trees that have fallen up there over the years. We think we've got some breaks in a portion of those, that we've got some deterioration. So as you saw in this, part of this would be measurement of the flows coming down from the different branches and to be able to determine exactly where we're missing water, and then some type of plan to start renovating those spring lines. There is what is in North Indian Creek and what is coming out of the springs, at least initially, is almost a distinct supply. When we built the filter plant up there in 46, we actually supplemented water from the springs by taking out of North Indian Creek, and the city actually got riparian rights as a result of that in the 30s and in the 40s. I wouldn't worry about we will not pull enough volume even with an additional supply that would impact the creek. That plan is capped at about 4.5 million gallons per day capacity up there. That is the limiting factor on what we would be able to withdraw.
Wiedemann will assure us that, in fact, that's not going to occur before we approve any additional
That's
tapping
correct,
into
yes.
springs up through
Yes,
that
sir.
area.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay,
And
thank you.
don't sit down. I
Okay.
think next one is yours as well. E1?
The next one, we're asking you all to defer that. That is the
ADA.
the ADA
Thank you.
transition plan. Commissioner Van Brocklin, you had asked about the balance of the work to be done and were there any economies of scale of bundling all that work together. So we have conferred with the vendor. They have agreed to put together a complete package and put it in a format just like Tom's master service agreement, so that we can go through and do it like an a la carte menu as the commission deems appropriate. So we will have that back before you on November the 2nd.
And they will indicate to us whether or not there's a savings in bundling things.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That would,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Very good. Mr. Peterson? Oh, we need a motion for the consent agenda.
Move approval.
We have a motion. About a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
Okay, that takes you to ordinance number 4647-17, an ordinance to abandon the Johnson City public right-of-way on Ed Baxter Road, ready for your consideration on third and final reading.
Move approval.
And I believe we have a public hearing tonight, so why don't we open the public hearing first? Open it up. Anybody here to speak in favor or against ordinance 4647-17?
I guess I was premature.
Good evening. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bill Henderson, 219 Marydale Drive here in Johnson City. We went to the planning meetings about the closure of the road. There's not really, nobody's really against it. We understand where we live, excuse me, in the subdivision behind there, that we will have businesses along there. There are just some concerns that were brought up by the residents, which I don't think we have many here tonight, but is the traffic issues on the Bristol Highway, especially when you're bringing in a pretty substantial dealership. And, when the road gets moved, why not at that point make it right? And there was talk about doing a traffic study, and that got put off for a future date, and it's kind of concerning. We talked about it, and that was approved, and through the commission, but then it was not done. we did still have some questions, talked to some neighbors about, excuse me, on the plat plan that we got and through the other meetings, there was, with the movement of the road, there was no, at Marydale and Mountain View, what kind of stop sign situation is going to be there? Because we foresee a lot of traffic on Mountain View once that dealership opens up. And, you know, we've got, it's a neighborhood, you know, with kids and people. I ride my bike in the mornings there and so forth. So, so that's what we're concerned about. Is there a two-way stop sign or will there be a four-way stop sign there? We also talked about, it was unclear on the curb cuts for off the Bristol Highway. If there's any, if I never did really hear if they have cuts off the highway. I know they do on the new Marydale road or Ed Baxter Road, because that again is going to bring in a lot of traffic to our side, you know. Also, we talked about just the new Captain D's on right there by Best Western, a dedicated turn lane, because and we were told at the other meeting that the center turn lane is too narrow for that. Well, is there any way that the shoulders on the Bristol Highway are with the car lane on both sides? Is there any way that could be squeezed in and we could put a dedicated lane, turn lane, because it's a suicide mission when you go in there in the evenings or any time of the day for that matter. And then I was looking at it today, and where the west entrance into Champion Chevrolet is, it couldn't be any more than 50 feet or maybe a little bit more than that. So you're going to have people turning into Champion Chevrolet, and then we're going to try to turn into Ed Baxter. And it's you know, and you get these people that drift over, people on cell phones, people looking at cars. If you could do a dedicated turn lane, because I know we've talked about traffic lights, and that would be, to me, seems like the pretty good solution, but we can't get that to happen. I've been 20 years, been fighting that battle, and that hasn't happened yet. So, but at least a dedicated turn lane when you go to the left there, because it's going to be, I foresee a real nightmare there myself. So, I mean, every day when I turn left going in that subdivision, I mean, almost without exception, you look at a head-on collision. So I mean, it's you know, we don't have many out there. We have wrecks all the time, but we don't. I guess we don't have enough fatalities to make a difference. But that's our concern. I'd like to see something done, make it right the first time instead of after the fact. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see if there's any, we're still in public hearing. Anybody else here to speak in favor or against? All right, let me close the public hearing. And
You have somebody else.
I'm sorry. He's we'll open it back up, Jim. Yeah.
I'm Jim Baxter, 3711 Bristol Highway is my business address, and I do have the same concerns that Mr. Henderson has about the traffic on the Bristol Highway, but my main thrust in being here tonight is that the original Planning Commission meeting, we talked about we talked about Ed Baxter Road becoming another road name. That's my dad is Ed Baxter. So my concern here tonight is that the city saves money, moves the sign to the new road. And I have no idea at this point if that's what.
I would have no problem with that. I'm not sure what we would need to do. That's probably got to go through planning,
I
correct?
thought we were going to call it the Jim and Ed Baxter Road.
No, I don't think so. But I would
I
love
don't know
for it
that
to
we've
stay
ever
Ed
gotten into
Baxter
that
Road.
much
That's my
detail,
only
but,
one of my purposes here
That
tonight.
would
is
make
just-
perfectly good sense
Basically
to
what
me.
we're doing is moving Ed Baxter
Just moving
Road.
Ed
Okay,
Baxter Road.
all right.
Well-
At the last planning commission meeting, they said the old Ed Baxter Road and the new Ed Baxter Road, so I just wanted to see if that was still in place.
Yes,
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. Anybody else? Very good. I'll close the public hearing. And then, Mr. Pizzola, would you come up and answer a few questions, please?
Let's get the coffee.
He thought, I almost made it.
So close.
So close. Can you speak to the placement of the stop signs and whether that'll be a two-way or four-way, and the curb cuts on Bristol Highway?
Four-way stops are to control the traffic, and generally we put those in whenever there's equal amount of traffic on the two roads. We don't believe that Ed Baxter has sufficient amount of traffic to equalize with Mountain View, so that will be a two-way configuration. If things change as a result of development, obviously we'll review that at the time. As far as signalization on Bristol Highway, that's a separate issue that's been ongoing since we started seeing these types of car dealerships along Bristol Highway. We actually have done studies, and we cannot meet the minimum standards at this time in order to install a signal somewhere along Bristol Highway in order to provide gaps. We were hoping that the signal installation at Carroll Creek and the one at Creekmore would provide that. It obviously has not done as much as people would expect.
What would cause you to meet that standard? I mean, where are we deficient in meeting that standard? We seem to have a real problem with traffic volume on that road and people being able to easily turn. So where are we lacking in making that case?
The volume of traffic isn't sufficient. There haven't been enough accidents. We've tried to go before the state of Tennessee to get a signal installation, and we were not able to obtain that.
So it's
That
a
doesn't mean
It's a state issue.
It's a state issue, is that right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Bill,
It has to
They
meet
won't
certain
warrant it.
requirements.
But is there any mechanism
that
for us
based-
to override that?
Not us.
Okay.
Is that based on over the average over a day, or do they take into account that there are
They
peak
take
times
they
that
take
are,
peak times. They take
and they still
over
don't
the
think
day.
there's enough even at peak time?
There's not, as much as they will say, whatever anybody says, there's not a lot of traffic on Ed Baxter from our perspective. But that doesn't mean that we don't need it. The one thing about moving Ed Baxter is that it actually makes it a little bit safer in terms of sight distance for both the Mountain View entrance and exit and for Bristol Highway. So there are some qualifiers in there, and that's obviously we wanted the road, and as a result of the relocation, we'll have a better circumstance.
Bill, let me make sure I understand this correctly. There's sufficient traffic on Bristol Highway, but just the traffic coming out of Ed Baxter then doesn't qualify that for a traffic light?
Yeah, it wouldn't even come close.
Okay, so that's why, it's not the amount of traffic on the Bristol Highway.
Right, that's a significant amount. What I mentioned in a previous meeting with you is that we recognize the desire to have gaps in the traffic so that you can enter and exit the various locations and driveways. We think as things build up, as we get more and more traffic, and there will be a growth rate with Bristol Highway, unlike some of the others, there will be a time that a signal would likely be warranted. It's just not today. It's not. We don't have the information in front of us.
But it may not be at Ed Baxter, it may be at a different side street where
Could be a
there's more
different
volume.
location. And so what we would do is that would trigger a study to make sure we get the right location. And we've actually, in the CIP proposal, included a signal in this stretch in hopes that we can bring this to conclusion.
What
But it
about
would
curb cuts on Bristol Highway?
I believe there is a curb cut in the site plan. I don't see the site plan, but if you put a curb cut, and there will be one, they have to provide for a right turn lane. So there will be an an adjustment to the curb in order to accommodate that. As far as putting in the designated left, we don't see that as being necessary at this time. Like you see at the place on Rome, at Captain D's, that one has been one that we've wanted to do for a long time. And so luckily we got a development to help us out.
Very good.
On a related question, the one thing I've observed out there, that there is a break occurring because of Carroll Creek and Creekmore. They just don't seem to coincide real well. When you get into the area of Ed Baxter, it seems like, okay, it's about to where I can make a left, and now there's traffic coming the other way. How much could we evaluate whether we just have a timing issue between those two lights to at least get the brakes to hit the midpoint at roughly the same time?
We can do that, Commissioner. They generally run in these two locations. They're not synced up like we have on other roads in town. And we'll take a look at that. What Bill's seeing as he enters and exits, the gap between the signals is so large that you can actually have a differential occur in the amount of or the length of the queue of the vehicles. And so that's probably what they generally are.
The accordion is fully extended by then.
And it would seem that with the number of curb cuts onto Bristol Highway, with the timing, you could do the best you can with the lighting, but there's still going to be cars entering Bristol Highway from non-signalized entryways, correct? Or is that a...
Right, that would be the argument, Mayor, on gapping in the number of locations. The one that we, that alerts us, comes to our attention the greatest is the one at Wayfield, where you have businesses in the back and you may actually, we looked at signalizing that in order to just fill in that economic zone. The balance of them, there's a number of driveways, but it's not overly concerning at this point in time, but it would be as traffic volumes increase on Bristol Highway.
And Mr. Henderson, just want to make it very clear that it's not the fact that enough people have been killed out there. That's certainly not an area that's not data we would look at as a commission to make that call. I mean, we're users of that area too, certainly not every day, but I think we knew there were some issues here, and I believe every one of us went out there and spent a fair amount of time sitting, entering, turning, coming out, going out there and making sure we saw it from every direction and feel very comfortable that at the very least, it's not a great situation that you have out there, but this has not made it worse. Now, the traffic generated, if it goes great guns and they have thousands of customers a day at this Ford lot, be a good problem to have for the city from a revenue standpoint, but you have our commitment that we're not just going to turn our backs and move on this. We'll keep an eye on it, and I mean we'd count on you guys to let us know if things change. But we're reasonably comfortable. I think, as I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we've all been out there and looked at it enough that this is not putting anybody in any worse situation. If you cross 4 lanes of traffic, I don't care where you are. It's a dangerous proposition, and you better be careful. The 2 lanes, again, if we can help with spacing, if we can time the lights a little better and give you a little bit bigger window to make that left-hand turn into there, certainly we'll do that. But I don't want you to think we're gonna act tonight and move on. It is something that we are aware of, but we are limited to what we can do. So.
And finally, Mayor, the orientation of the business, as I understand, we're not going to allow for access directly onto Mountain View.
Right.
Because of the sensitivity of the neighborhood, that the orientation is towards Bristol Highway, both in terms of sound, traffic, and so on.
Very good, thank you. Any more questions? Any more discussion? Do I have a motion?
At this point, I'll move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin,
Appreciate the questions being asked. Yes.
Commissioner Wise,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Tomita.
Yes.
Next item for consideration is ordinance number 4649-17. An ordinance authorizing the conveyance of a portion of the right-of-way along Mount Castle Drive located within the corporate limits of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee to Gregory A. Isbell and Jacqueline Isbell upon the terms and conditions set forth herein. Ready for your consideration on third and final reading.
Move approval.
Do I have a motion? How about a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin.
Yes.
Commissioner Wise.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Tomita.
Yes.
At this time, your next order of business is to hear a presentation and request by the Boone Lake Association.
Okay.
Mr. McKee?
I'm Tom McKee. I live at 159 Will Lane Road, which is in Johnson City, Tennessee, on Boone Lake, which I asked to be annexed. I could not live there when I was on the city commission because of the fact that I've been outside the city. So anyway, I had the privilege of being vice president of Boone Lake Association. I gave you all a packet with a lot of material on there, and I'm not going to go over all that. What you all do need to keep in mind is that the Boone Lake Association has been in existence for 30 years. Back when I started out early on that lake, it was polluted. It was bad. And thanks to some good people that later founded the Boone Lake Association, they developed a procedure and a process by which they've cleaned the lake, and it's been clean for 30 years. Unfortunately, because of the Boone Dam situation, a lot of our members, our membership has decreased from 650 to about 220 now. Because of that, we've dropped our revenue so much that we have a 3-man crew that works on that lake every day, 50 weeks a year, all day long, weather permitting. And they do a great job. And unfortunately, because of this loss of revenue, we're not going to be able to keep them after December the 31st. And we learned about the fact that the TVA made impact payments to the city and the 2 counties, Sullivan and Washington. And understanding from being in your shoes before that this was kind of a windfall to a certain extent because it's impact payments, we felt we certainly deserved and should come before you to try to save these people's jobs and to keep the lake clean. We personally feel it's going to be a disaster on that lake if those people aren't out there working every day, 3 days a week, 5 days a week. I have with me tonight Ron Siegfried. Ron, stand up. He's the head of the cleanup operation. He's a volunteer board of directors, and Aaron takes care, he actually supervises the crew. And if y'all have any questions about how bad it'll be if we don't keep these people jobs, then you can ask them because they can see it, they see it every day. And therefore, we're asking for you all to give us, I think it's a little over $10,000, about $9,000. It's
$97.80 is your request.
Okay, the reason for that is of that money, we're only asking for 4%, a little less than 4% of the money to be expended. Everybody keeps the rest. I mean, I'm talking about Sullivan County, Washington County, and Johnson City. And we desperately need this money, especially since it's the windfall situation to a certain extent for you all. And we absolutely need this to keep this lake clean. And this is Johnson City's lake. And if you've read all the stuff in there that I gave to you, it's amazing how much trash and stuff accumulates in this lake simply because it's one of the few lakes in the TVA system that is surrounded by all these communities. No protected watershed. It's unbelievable the amount of trash that goes in the lake. So we would appreciate your consideration for that and if you could possibly ask both the 2 counties to join you in that in that project.
They don't
so-
always do what we ask.
I understand it, but you all are public servants, and safety, environmental matters are big-time stuff. The money, if you give us this money, it'll only keep these people working for 2 months. After that, they'll be gone. So it's really unfortunate. We're doing our best to get our members to pony up and let us how serious this is. So we
Mr.
appreciate y'all. If y'all have any questions, they're here to answer your questions.
Mr. McKee, I certainly would strongly encourage Washington County and Sullivan County to make a contribution to this effort. I think certainly what the Boone Lake Association does is a huge asset to this community. And so my motion this evening will support your request for $9,780 for fiscal year 18 to be provided to the Boone Lake Association to support your efforts.
Just as a point of information, would that be funded out of those dollars?
And that would be funded out of the impact dollars.
Impact, okay. I would second that.
I believe you're thirding it.
Oh, well, then that was, please put me down as thirding it.
And I would also echo.
The often unused parliamentary move to third something.
Echo Commissioner Van Brockland as well. I would encourage Washington County and Sullivan County. This is, Boone Lake's a treasure, sitting right in the middle of our three entities. And while the water's down, I guess this is a good time to get a lot of stuff cleaned up right now, too. I saw some pictures of a lot of tires that are still pulling out of there. So now's the time to get it in good shape when the water starts going back up. So I'm glad.
We appreciate your support and remarks.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Any other discussion?
Gentlemen, thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And please call the roll.
Certainly.
Just don't say the wrong thing.
You've been a big support of us for so many years. I mean, the Wing Park facilities you allow us, they have to give us a dumpster, which allows us to put all our trash, big assets. So thank you all so much.
Well, certainly anything else we can do, along those lines that would be helpful, please let us know. Can't guarantee you we can do it, but we'll certainly consider it. I mean, we want to be a good partner for you, so. Call the roll?
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brockland?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Phil, Kathy, Philip, this time we will have Public Works present their performance management dashboards. Laura is here as well. Laura, you want to kind of introduce what we've got going and the history of this, please, ma'am?
Yes.
As for the dashboards, most of you have seen these before. We started this process with ICMA 4 or 5 years ago with their performance management system. And although they have discontinued their efforts, we have picked up this process, continued what we're doing, and we've also picked up the benchmarking project with MTAS. So this is the information you'll see for tonight and the next couple of meetings is for fiscal year 2017, the year-end comparisons. Different departments present them a little bit different as far as the information and what they measure and how they measure it. It is an ongoing process for us to try to improve the information that we're getting out to you, and eventually this will be part of our budget document that we have. So you'll see this now for 17 and you'll see it again during the budget process in the spring.
Well, first I want to introduce Kathy Harsh, Solid Waste Manager, and Philip Davis, who's assistant, and they do a fantastic job. Mostly.
Hey, Phil, would you mind either speaking up or leaning over just a little bit? We can't hear you
Okay.
here. Yeah.
We're getting old, our hearing's going.
I'm not getting old.
I'm not getting old, you're just speaking slow. Whatever the case may be, we can't hear you very well, so.
We
don't
look
wanna
at the
miss it.
residential program, and what we found is that our expenses have gone up primarily because of transport. We're replacing vehicles once every 8 years. And in the last 3 years or so, when we're out of warranty, the expenses go up fairly significantly and will impact the cost of a program. So we're finding that the cost of residential collection, which includes recycling and the garbage in front of your house and brush leaf collection, is rising to $15.63 per household. And remember that per month, and remember that we're charging at $9. You approved tonight some equipment, the automated, so next year we expect the cost to go down slightly in the residential program. I've indicated in the past that we financially are in fine shape. If there's not something dramatic to occur, we believe that there is an improvement that ought to be had, and it would require an adjustment in the rate structure. Commercial collection is going down per collection, and it's due to we purchased a group of trucks last year, so we're seeing the motor transport costs come down, and you'll see some additional collections, and we're not increasing fleet, so we're getting good numbers here. The commercial program is very efficient and actually helps subsidize the residential collection. The roll-off accounts, our roll-off accounts for this past for the year is up about 6%. That would give us some additional revenues to deal with. We buy individual trucks about once every year. We had to purchase a number of containers, but our revenue exceeds our expenses in all categories. We rent containers $100 a month, and pulls are $107 per pull, so we're doing pretty good on the collection. So that's got a revenue stream that we then take any profits from that system and dump it into the residential system. Our revenues are up. One of the big surprises was cardboard sales and recycling was up about 120,000. And we're getting additional accounts that would account for the increase in revenue.
Going to give us the number of how many households actually recycle? Is that in your presentation?
No, but it's around.
The average weekly collection is about 8,300. That's weekly collections.
On recycle?
On curbside. Yes.
Curbside, and that's out of, how many pickups then?
How many households?
That's the number of collections that we have.
Right, I just wondered what percentage of that?
22,000.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Something like
Yes.
that, 22, a third.
35% or so. 19,000 customers.
So we only have about 30 to 40% who actually recycle?
Well, that's on a weekly basis. Some people do it on bi-weekly, some people do it once a
Okay.
month.
I got you.
It's- All that, the numbers are around 60%.
Around 60, okay, that's what I was good
We
with.
fill more than one recycling bin every week. We must be overachievers.
I got you, thank you.
What's that? Exactly. That must be what it is.
The wine bottle.
Yeah.
So we're fairly pleased with the control of expenses. On landfill diversion, which for the region we have to achieve 25%, we're at 26% for the city. For residential, when you compare what we recycle and including the waste stream, which is located on the bottom line, we're at around 56, 57%. Now that will actually go down a little bit because we had to cut back on the yard waste program and closed it off to private contractors, and so the numbers will reduce next year. However, we are going to implement a study to see if there is an alternative to the disposal of the mulch product so that we can maybe open it back up. The recycling program, We're fairly comfortable this year. Obviously, curbside is expensive. We took out the expense of the office paper program and combined it with curbside. We actually reduced some of our costs that way, and I think Philip and Kathy did a great job in implementing that. You can see with the different programs what it cost and the revenues produced. Over on the right side, you can see that if you combine the total revenues and the cost avoidance, which is if you had to take the waste and put it in the landfill at those rates, we only have about a $20 per ton separation. So that's roughly $100,000 to $120,000. That's pretty good. Yeah, a lot of people have changed to their systems. We didn't change because the revenue is so high. We're out of that, and then we looked at some of the other programs. The pavement program, we started 3 years ago with the stepped-up pavement program from around 1.2 to 3 million, and we are obviously achieving what we had hoped. And so the street conditions are improving, the really good streets, and we're going as fast as we can. We'll probably spend the money out for this fiscal year by the end of this calendar year. So the streets are getting in better shape, and we spent a little bit of effort, more effort on the arterial and collector streets. So we got fairly decent rideability. I've got a couple areas I've got to deal with. Neighborhoods are in the same shape. We're working neighborhoods now. So as a result of the stepped up paving program, it'll have an effect on the number of potholes in the community and that sort of thing. So hopefully the whole service level, you'll start seeing an increase. It is just a function of how much we put into the effort. So here's our potholes. We try to get to them fairly quick. Still doesn't meet what we want to achieve, so we'll get better at it. Street sweeping, we're on target. We exceed our goals, so we're fine on the street sweeping effort. Now we're starting to shift over a little bit into leaf collection, so I have to pull from different disciplines to handle that. But they do a great job, and they're ahead of the typical amount of streets swept. Anything in right-of-way, our response times are excellent, and I'm very pleased with the effort of the guys. There you have it. Are there any questions?
Appreciate some of the repaving jobs that I've seen recently, Phil. Knob Creek Road is much more drivable in particular.
Yeah, that was really tried to eliminate the amount of maintenance effort, and we had to do something. I mean,
Yeah, I know you were out there constantly trying to patch potholes, and this is a solution that's met with great favor with a lot of my neighbors, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Any other? Good.
Just one real quick question. You may have mentioned it. On the leaf collection, what do we do? Do we compost any of that stuff and use it, or what do you do with all the leaves crushed up?
What's the name of the company? The mulch company. Mulch company has about 8 locations in East Tennessee, and they have an operation out on Market Street. So we provide them the leaves for their mulch, and they take part of the we provide all the leaves for them at that location. Now, I'm not sure about the market conditions. It seems like something's changed, and having a little difficulty right now. But that's where the leaves go. And the mulch is going to Domtar, but Domtar is cutting back for a variety of reasons. So that's why we had to shut it off to the private.
So since citizens right now are starting to put leaves, they're supposed to put them in their yard, not on the street?
Yeah. And, you know, the reality is they still do it in the street, but they have to recognize that, you know, we can't get around but maybe 3 times a season. So that's about once a month or once every 3 weeks. So we start in full operation at the end of October. So if they don't put them in the street, then when it rains, it won't clog up the drains, which causes another problem for them.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Tom, please, sir. Thank you, Phil, Kathy. Good job. Thank you very much.
My favorite.
Go through these pretty quickly. Water plants compliance rate, you would expect those to be at 100%. They're at 100%. Potable water flows, this is what we're producing out of the plant. You can see there's been slight decline on that. There's been really an increased effort on a lot of leak repair, especially in some of the main parts of the system. That's attributed to part of that. Over a multi-year period, you'll see some decrease in consumption. Hydrant repair, we've made a nice transition with the new fire chief. We've had a couple of meetings with them and made sure that we're aligned with what he expects us to do and what we need to do in order to serve them. One of the things is hydrant repairs. Car knocks a hydrant off, they go out to operate one for whatever reason. There's something mechanically wrong with the hydrant. Our goal is 10 days to get it repaired. We're averaging about 4.4, and about 90% of the hydrant repairs we make are within a 24-hour period. So there's usually some real challenging situations that make that number go up. Wastewater plant compliance, 100% except for a couple of months in April and May, and that was at Brush Creek. We have the place torn all to pieces. We had one violation in each of those months, which is very unusual for us. We had a similar type situation when we were expanding the regional plant. Just a lot of activities going on within the plant, and we believe that probably was attributable to that. Wastewater flows, that is the combined capacity for all 3 plants that you see up there at 26 million gallons per day. Right now, we're using, if you average all of these out, about 52% of the capacity. I would point out that in the month of May, we had 9 inches of rain, almost 9 inches of rainfall. So as we get more rain, we produce less water at the water plant, as you might imagine, and we get more flow into the 3 wastewater plants.
Oh, is that just coming in, infiltrating the sewer lines? Or?
It is, yes,
Okay.
sir. And you approved a task order tonight. We're prioritizing our sewer basins to do rehab work. So there's a basin out Cherokee Road that's next on the list, and that's what you approved tonight, is to go reline and fix those areas. Collection system overflows, we want these to be as minimal as possible. If you look at the breakdown on a given basis for last calendar year, about 32% were caused by rain, 15% debris, and about 15% caused by roots, and then miscellaneous reasons for the other ones. I think a positive story is, if you remember, you've been approving standby generators on a number of our lift stations where we're gradually retrofitting those. During the last year, we only had one power outage that resulted in a overflow to lift station, so that's a direct result.
Did we not have a generator at that lift station?
No, we didn't. It hadn't cycled down that one's been a priority yet.
What, Tom, what's the average cost of a generator that goes?
You know, the generator itself, we're paying on the size stations that we're down to now, you're seeing bids for a generator of about $28,000-$30,000. By the time we do the pad, the electrical wiring, those kind of things, it probably gets up to about $50,000. Okay. You remember, some of you probably remember, some of you would like to forget the budget presentation, but if you remember, we did a lot of information on our sewer maintenance programs, and we call it CMOM, and there's about 10 different programs. Well, there's 2 of them that are key, and that's cleaning sewer pipes. And so our goal is at least 10% of the total collection system, which means that we've got to clean about 280,000 feet a year. We exceeded that goal for the past year. Sometime in November, we'll have a information item in the packet. I would compliment a number of the employees. We've been working down on Buffalo Street downtown from State of Franklin around to Roan, near where Muncie's at. There's a section of line that went in down there in the late 60s, early 1970s. Has never been cleaned. They have been down there at night cleaning, and we'll have the quantity of material that we pulled out of that line. It's been significant, and the way they had to get the material out of the line, it was quite creative and very labor intensive, and so they deserve a lot of credit for that, but I'll have a memo in the packet. TV inspection, we were again over the goal that we wanted, and this is where we go out on TV and inspect. Both of these 2 categories, we're starting back. We completed 10 years worth of system TV, and we got 100% or 99.9% of the system done. We're cycling back over now. There was a significant event that occurred today in that another program which we don't have dashboarded is, you may have seen, where we go out and smoke test, looking for breaks in lines, drain caps off, those kind of things. We're doing it on 10%, and we didn't start it the same time that we started these 2 programs, but they completed the 10-year cycle on that actually this morning, so we'll have an information item in the packet for you on that. E-bills continues to grow, about 5.5%, 6% of our total bills that we send out are e-bills, or actually about 3%, I'm sorry. It's a conflict right there. We're up to 5.5%, sorry. Water taps purchased, that's what we've had in the past year. Give you the total numbers on that. It went up about 10%.
Year over year? Year over year?
From this time last year, a full 12-month period, it went up 10%. So that's better than going down 10%, so obviously. But anyway. Any questions you might have? Anything?
How many miles of water and sewer line do our folks maintain?
On the water system, almost 950. On the sewer side, right at about 620. So
That's inside and regional?
that is
both.
our total collection system. So
almost
combined,
1,000
about
miles.
a little over 1,500 to almost 1,600 feet of line. Sure will. Thank you. Thank you.
The next item you have added to the agenda is discussion of hiring a firm to provide branding development services.
Very good. We heard presentations from four folks who responded to our RFP for rebranding. As this was one of our short-term goals back in January, we'd like to get that rolling. So what we'd like to do, if it pleases the commission, is there were four presenters. Rank them from 1 to 4, with every number one vote getting 4 points. 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whoever gets most total points gets the contract. Does that make sense? Commissioner Wise, you're looking at me like it doesn't, so.
I'm just, there's so many ways we can do this. Come on.
Unless we all have the same number one.
Well, let's just start and see. Yeah, I mean,
Very good. All right. Would somebody like?
Well, my impression in hearing from the four groups is that each of them struck me as very professional and bringing unique characteristics to bear on the project. With that said, one, in my mind, stood out significantly from the others as far as just looking at the available work product they had as samples and talking about the process they used to get from here to the finished product. North Star Strategies struck me as the one that was going to probably deliver the greatest amount of value. So that would be my number one, and I'd just be curious if...
I generally agree with Commissioner Wise in that regard. I think all four firms would be very capable. I think all of them had different things that they brought to the table. I'd truly love to award the contract to our local firm because I think they were very competitive with these other firms. However, the wealth of experience that North Star has in the very specific needs that we have, it's hard to overlook that. And so I would certainly be supportive of North Star as my number one choice as well.
Well, I see some heads nodding, so, yeah, well, let me just, any comments you'd like to make?
No, I agree that I would love for the local firm here to get it too, but with 250 cities that they've already done this for and know that's just what they do, I have a hard time not picking North Star as my number one.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, and we couldn't go wrong with any of them, but the thing that was, I particularly liked about the North Star approach to this was to help us really come up with an identity of our area as well. You know, the videos that we saw of people on the street in Knoxville and Nashville didn't even know where Johnson City was or even heard of it. We need to figure that out, and I think that's a company that can help us do that.
The Wagon Wheel City.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's that
Yeah,
song.
thank goodness for Wagon Wheel, and I'll echo what my colleague said. I think we had four very capable, very professional presentations today. When I walked in today expecting to hear 4 hours of presentations, my expectations were not very high, but they went very well, very quickly, were very engaging. And again, would be comfortable with any of them, and many of those who presented to us, our local firm being one of them, it's certainly somebody that could probably help us put the rubber to the road once we have the product. But it just looked like North Star had, this is what they do. It's not what they do along with some other things. It appears to be their bailiwick.
And it's not just a logo or a tagline or some kind of, it's a broader way of telling the story of Johnson City to people who right now are 90 miles away, couldn't tell you anything about Johnson City. I would imagine if you'd have asked those same people to tell you something about Chattanooga or Asheville, many of them could have told you things about those cities, and we just need to raise our game if we want those people and their dollars visiting our town.
So what, I guess our action item for this evening will be to instruct staff to enter into contract negotiations with North Star for the services outlined on the RFP. Does that
For us
sound?
to look at in November?
Yes,
Would
for
it
us
come
to
back
review. Yeah, we'd like to see that back in front of us at the first meeting in November.
I think specificity, you know, we kind of had broad buckets tonight we were talking about, but then really nailing down the scope of services, what we need, and that's something we have to kind of figure out too, what we need, what we want to do, and how we move forward.
So I would need a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
We just, Mayor, maybe want to do this is for those who are watching, just why we're doing this, you know, what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Well, Mom, since the current logo that we use was developed back in the 70s.
Right behind you.
You can see it, if you see it right behind us. It's a little stylized towards that period of time. A logo is not going to open up massive amounts of interest in Johnson City, but a logo does speak to your community the sensibility of the community and what's important to the community, and also that it is a community that is moving forward.
But more yet than a logo is the idea of a brand. And the idea of a brand is what Johnson City is and what it holds itself out to be, and the logo is a part of that.
Correct. And that's what I was going to say.
Well, I'm sorry, I just jumped the gun.
But again, to tie a new logo into a brand that we can go out and present, I think is very important. I think we all agree it's important to at least look at it and consider it. And I think we've got again, we had very good response to it, very capable presenters today, but again, one stood out because of their body of work and the type of body of work they've done. So.
If I could just have
Sure.
one thing too, it will be a process over time. And, our community is going to be involved in this.
Yep.
We have major stakeholders, we have a range of people that are going to be giving back information about identifying the culture of this city, who we are and where we want to go. So we're going to be engaging our citizens, our businesses, to help us through this process.
All our stakeholders. It's a team effort, and we'll enter into it in that manner. So, have we voted? Okay. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
Now, do you still want to do that 4, 3, 2, 1?
I would. I'd like to see how it comes out.
I was a little scared how that was going to roll.
I was getting my calculator out here.
I was like, oh, man.
It's funny. It's usually I'm usually not the one that overcomplicates things.
That is true.
That
It
we
is
kinda
usually someone else.
Change positions. Is that it for our much amended agenda today? Thanks everybody for coming. Just one thing I want to discuss. I'm not going to go into great lengths because the raw data had already been printed in the press. We've completed Mr. Peterson's review, and I presented him with a summary letter tonight, sort of outlining some of the highs and lows of the review and our plan for moving forward. I've provided that. I'm not going to read it to my mother. She's probably ready to go to bed right now. But I have provided that to the press. And again, it's just a summary. We will have a planning session sometime probably in November. I don't think we're going to be able to squeeze it in October. We're either going to spend a Saturday or a weekday evening kind of reaffirming our strategic plan that we put into place several years ago, and then outlining what our expectations for Mr. Peterson's objectives are over the next review period. So we'll let you know when that meeting is set, and we'll address that at that time and go forward from there. So would also just like to quickly say thank you to Chief Soroy for his service. 30 years of service to this city, and as long as I've been on this commission, it's been our chief. I'd say, as most of us on here have not known another chief. A true gentleman, true professional, stand-up guy. Proud to know him, and feel very safe with him at the helm. And I'm sure we will find a very qualified replacement for him. But we'll miss him, and we wish him well in his retirement, good health, and happy retirement. So, yeah. All right. Any other comments from the commission? Wow. Nothing? Anyone?
Oh, you might mention this is our only meeting.
Well, somebody else can throw that in. I don't have to at all. This is our only meeting. Well, I did earlier as we amended the agenda, but this will be our only meeting in October. We will reconvene the first Thursday of November, which I believe is the 2nd. Is that correct?
I believe that is right.
So until then, happy Halloween.